They laughed when they said his name. The sound echoed through the metal walls of mining station Kestrel 9, a place built from steel, noise, and exhaustion. Laughter was common there. It was how humans survived the dark. When space pressed in from all sides, jokes were easier than fear. Ethan Cole stood near the back of the cargo hall, holding a dented cup of recycled coffee. He was tired. His shoulders ached from 12-hour shifts. His eyes burned from dust and artificial light. He had been on the station for 3 years, and no one waited for him back on Earth. He was invisible, and invisible people were easy targets. The station manager, drunk and smiling, slapped a hand on the table. "All right. Quiet down. Tonight's special event, cultural exchange." Groans mixed with laughter. "We got a shipment delayed." The manager continued, but along with it came a diplomatic package. Some alien customs thing. One of their people needs to be married. That word hit the room like a spark. Married. Someone laughed. "To us." Another shouted, "What, like a pet?" The manager shrugged. "Rules say 1 human volunteer, or we draw a name." People stepped back without thinking. Ethan didn't. Maybe he was too slow. Maybe he was too tired. Maybe part of him didn't care anymore. The name wheel spun. Lights blinked. Then it stopped. Ethan CO'd for a second. The room was quiet. Then it exploded. Cheers, whistles, clapping, mock bows. "Look at you, Ethan. Finally getting some action. Hope she bites." Man married an alien before paying off his debts. Ethan's face burned. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He wanted to say no. He wanted to run, but his feet felt locked to the floor. The manager laughed the loudest. "Congrats, hero. Go meet your bride." The doors slid open. She walked in without guards. Without chains, she was not what they expected. She was tall, but not threatening. Her skin shimmered softly, like moonlight on water. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with something quiet and deep. She wore simple robes, clean and unmarked. No jewelry, no weapons, no fear. The laughter faded, slowly, like air leaking from a room. She stopped a few steps from Ethan and bowed her head. "My name is Lyra," she said in clear, gentle English. "I accept this union." Her voice was calm, not nervous, not confused. Ethan felt his heart stumble. This is a joke," someone muttered. Lyra looked up. Her eyes met Ethan's. "I know," she said softly, "but jokes still have consequences." No one laughed after that. The contract was signed quickly. Too quickly. A digital stamp. A few rules read out loud. No one explained anything to Ethan. No one asked if he was okay. Just like always, they gave him a new room, larger than his old one. Married quarters, they joked. Someone slapped his back and wished him luck. When the door closed, silence filled the space. Ethan stood awkwardly, staring at the floor. "I'm sorry," he said at last. "They shouldn't have done this." Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded. "I did not come by force," she replied, "but I did not expect cruelty to wear laughter." That hit him harder than anger would have. "You don't deserve this," Ethan said. She smiled, small and sad. "Neither do you." Through the viewport, stars drifted past, cold and endless. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something unfamiliar. Not hope, not love, but the quiet fear that his life is small, Unnoticed life had just collided with something far bigger than a joke, and the universe was no longer laughing. The days passed slowly. Ethan tried to act normal, but normal had changed. Every corner of the station reminded him of the joke that had trapped him. People whispered when they thought he wasn't listening. They laughed quietly, a sound that cut sharper than a blade. He felt exposed, like a small animal in a steel cage. Lyra, however, was different. She moved through the station as if it belonged to Herbert, not with arrogance. She was quiet, careful, always observing. Ethan watched her, unsure what to think. Sometimes she would stare at the walls, then at the ceiling, then at the blinking lights at the station, as if she were reading a hidden language. He wanted to ask her questions, but she did not speak much. When she did, it was calm, patient, and thoughtful. "I like the stars here," she said one evening, gazing through the viewport at the black void speckled with white lights. "But they are small, too small. I am used to wider skies." Ethan laughed nervously. "You mean your planet?" She nodded. "It is bigger. Not just space, but responsibility. Life I do not carry here." He didn't know what she meant. He wanted to ask, but the words felt heavy. Lyra adapted quickly to human ways. She learned the language fully in a day. She could walk through the corridors without bumping into machines or people. She ate the same meals as humans, although she touched the food lightly, savoring it in a way Ethan could not understand. One night, Ethan woke to see her standing at the viewport, whispering words that shimmered in the air like tiny lights. "What are you saying?" he asked softly, careful not to startle her. "Prayers," she said, turning her head slightly. Her eyes reflected the cold stars outside. For guidance. For choices that must be made. To who? To the universe? To life itself? Ethan blinked. He had never met anyone like her. She was small, soft-spoken, and combat she carried a weight he could not measure. Then came the first moment of danger. A group of miners cornered her in the corridor. One of them shoved her roughly, calling her a station pet. Ethan's blood boiled. He had never fought anyone in his life. But that day, instinct took over. He grabbed a metal rod from the wall and swung it, knocking the man back. Others stepped in, shocked. Lyra did not scream. She did not run. She only looked at Ethan, her eyes wide but calm. Then she reached out and touched his hand. "You defended me," she said. Her voice was gentle, but it carried a weight that made Ethan's heart hammer. "Of course I did," he replied, confused by the rush of pride and fear inside him. "You're my wife." Her lips curved in a small, almost imperceptible smile. That simple gesture struck him harder than the fight ever could. There was no joke in her eyes now. Only recognition. Only respect. From that night on, Ethan's world shifted. He felt responsible, not just for himself, but for her. Every moment became sharper, more alive. The stars outside the viewport seemed closer, bigger and more dangerous. The quiet halls of the station no longer felt empty. They felt like a stage for something far larger than himself. He realized, with a strange mix of fear and awe, that he did not know her at all. She was small, gentle, human-like in ways he could understand, but beneath that, there was power. Quiet power. A presence that made people pause. And though Ethan did not yet understand it, he would soon learn that Lyra's calmness and grace were not just patience. They were the first hints of something immense, something that could shake the galaxy itself. For now, though, they lived side by side in silence, side by side in a world that had made a joke of them. And for the first time, Ethan felt that maybe the joke was not over. Maybe it was only just beginning. Yet deep down, he sensed that whatever was coming, it would change him forever, and that the quiet stranger at his side was far more than he could imagine. It began at dawn. Ethan was still half asleep when the station's alarms screamed. Red lights flooded every corridor, redder than the blood moon he had once seen on Earth. Sirens cut through the hum of machinery. Doors sealed automatically. Panic spread like wildfire among the miners. At first, Ethan thought it was a routine warning. Pirate ships were common around the outer belts. But these ships were different. They hung in space like shadows, enormous and sleek. Weapons glinted along their hulls, impossibly advanced. Human guns would not scratch them. The station's defenses were meaningless. Ethan ran to Lyra's quarters, heart hammering. We need to hide, now. She stood calmly near the viewport, gazing at the approaching ships as if she had expected them. Do not run, she said softly. They are not here for destruction. Her words confused him. Then what? They are here for me, she said simply. Her voice was steady, certain. Ethan stopped. His chest tightened. Wait. What do you mean, for you? Before she could explain further, the first strike shook the station. Metal groaned. The lights flickered. Ethan barely caught a falling crate before it crushed him. Alarms screamed louder. Miners screamed. Chaos swallowed the corridors. Then the voice came. It filled every speaker, clear, strong, and undeniable. Not in human tones, but translated perfectly into English. Returned the Empress of the Galactic Concordance unharmed. This station and all aboard are under our protection until she is safe. Ethan froze. He stared at Lyra. Her head was still bowed, calm, composed, unaffected by the chaos around her. Her presence radiated authority, though she was barely taller than he was. Empress, he whispered, voice trembling. She finally looked at him, eyes dark, endless, almost painful. I wished for one life without power, just once, to be ordinary, to be like you. Ethan's knees weakened. He tried to speak, but words failed. The miners around them froze. Every human on the station had stopped, staring at her as if they had been caught in a dream. The doors burst open. Guards from the alien fleet streamed in. Their armor shimmered like liquid metal. They knelt the moment they saw her. Forgive our delay, Your Radiance, one said. The words rolled over Ethan like thunder. Ethan turned to her. Your Radiance. His voice was barely audible. He could not comprehend it. You're the ruler of all of this. Lyra bowed her head slightly. I am responsible. That is enough. The miners whispered and stumbled back, their laughter from days ago. Ethan wanted to shout, to ask why, to demand an explanation. Instead, he felt something strange. Awe, fear, respect. He had lived his whole life thinking humans were small, powerless, fragile. But standing beside Lyra now, he felt the weight of something vast pressing into the room. A galaxy he could never have imagined, moving silently, acknowledging her authority. The station manager stammered, turning pale. We didn't know. Lyra's gaze shifted to him. Not angry, not cruel, calm, patient. You did not understand, she said softly. That is all. Ethan reached for her hand, fumbling, unsure if it was safe. She did not pull away. Her fingers were cold, soft, but they carried a strength he had never felt in human touch. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why am I here?" "Because you see me," she replied. "Because you treated me as a person, not a joke. That choice matters more than you know." Ethan's throat tightened. His chest ached. He had spent years invisible, unnoticed, mocked. Now, the universe itself seemed to bow before the woman who had become his wife, and he had been the first to truly notice her. Outside the viewport, the alien ships waited, silent and patient. Inside, the humans trembled. But Ethan felt something else, a spark of pride. Courage he did not know he possessed. This was no longer a joke. The galaxy had come knocking, and Ethan had no choice but to stand beside her. For the first time in his life, he realized that small humans from a tiny blue planet could matter. That even in the vastness of space, one life, one choice, could ripple across the stars. And that realization, terrifying and beautiful, was only the beginning. The station was silent after the initial chaos. Red lights still blinked. Sirens wailed in the distance, but the panic had turned to awe. Every human on Kestrel 9 now looked at Lyra differently, not as a strange alien wife, but as something immense, something beyond understanding. Ethan still couldn't breathe. He stood in the middle of the quarters, staring at her. Her calmness had not wavered. She was small, delicate, almost fragile looking. But the moment the alien ships arrived, her presence had changed the entire station. Her eyes held a depth he could not comprehend. "She rules. All of it," he whispered finally. Lyra looked out through the viewport, her reflection merging with the stars. "Not rules," she said softly. "I protect. I bear responsibility. That is what my people expect. That is what I choose." Ethan shook his head. But why here? Why on this stupid mining station? Why was I chosen? She turned toward him, her silver skin glowing softly under the emergency lights. "I wished for a life without power. Just once, I wanted to be normal. But the universe does not grant ordinary to those who are born extraordinary." Her words sank into him. He had laughed when they handed him her as a joke. He had accepted it, partly out of apathy, partly out of fear of standing out. Now, standing beside her, he realized the weight of the galaxy rested quietly on her shoulders, and, somehow, she had chosen to share a fragment of that weight with him. The station manager approached nervously, hands raised. We didn't know. We thought it was just a joke. We meant no harm." Lyra's gaze softened, but it remained firm. "You failed to see responsibility. That is all. I forgive you." Ethan felt a pang of anger, but she stopped it before it burned too long. She looked at him. "By our laws, he who is bonded to me shares my fate. That includes you, Ethan." "What?" His voice cracked. "Me? Why would you?" "You protected me," she said simply. "When they mocked me, you defended me. When they laughed, you did not. That choice matters." Ethan could not speak. His heart pounded in his chest. He had lived his entire life invisible, mocked, forgotten, and now the Empress of a galaxy had chosen him not for his strength, not for his brilliance, but because he had done one simple, human thing. He had cared. It felt impossible, unreal, a joke that had turned into destiny. Outside the station, the alien ships remained. They did not attack. They simply waited, watching, patient. Lyra's calmness radiated outward, filling the room, the station, almost the entire system. Ethan realized that the silence of space was nothing compared to the silence of power that was certain, steady, and just. He touched her hand lightly. It was small, warm, human in ways he could understand. And yet, it carried a weight that could shake entire worlds. I don't know if I'm ready for this, he admitted. You will be, she said. You do not have to understand everything now. You only have to stand beside me. That is enough. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of stars. Ethan had never felt so small, and yet so important. He realized that being human meant something in the galaxy. That even a man from a tiny, unimportant planet could matter if he chose to act with courage, with kindness. And in that moment, standing beside Lyra, Ethan made a silent promise to himself. He would not fail her. He would not let the galaxy or himself fall short. For the first time in his life, Ethan understood that this joked the alien wife, the ridicule of his peers. The absurdity of it all was the very thing that had brought him to this moment. A moment where he mattered, where humans mattered, and Lyra, the quiet stranger who had been handed to him as a joke, was not just his wife anymore. She was a beacon of the galaxy's weight, a test of courage, and a mirror showing him who he could become. The stars outside drifted silently, but inside, Ethan's heart raced. He had crossed an invisible line. He was no longer just a miner. He was a man who had been chosen. A man who had been seen, and the galaxy, whether he understood it or not, had taken notice. The weight of truth settled over him, heavy and terrifying, but also alive. It was a weight he was willing to bear. For her, for humanity, for the galaxy itself, and deep down he knew the real journey had only just begun. The enemy came without warning. They called themselves the a ruthless empire that claimed the galaxy's outer systems. Their fleet was enormous, their weapons deadly, and they had one purpose: to remove Lyra, the Empress, whom they called weak and unworthy. They did not care about Kestrel 9 or its human miners. To them, Ethan and the others were nothing. The station shook as the first strike hit. Fire erupted along the corridors. Warning lights painted the walls red. Alarms screamed. Ethan's chest felt like it might burst. He grabbed a rifle he barely knew how to use. His hands shook, but he did not let go. Lyra moved beside him, calm as ever. "You do not have to fight," she said softly. "I can protect everyone." "I'm not leaving you," Ethan said, jaw tight. "Not now. Not ever." Her eyes met his. There was no fear, only a quiet understanding. "Then we stand together." That was the moment Ethan understood what it meant to be human. Not all humans were strong, but some were stubborn. Some would fight for what they loved, even if the odds were impossible. He saw it in the faces of the other miners, the engineers, the cooks. They grabbed weapons, barricaded doors, and prepared to defend their home. Not for money, not for fame, but because one of their own, the alien who had become their family, needed them. The first Zytrax boarding party crashed through the outer doors. Ethan fired blindly, heart hammering. He hit one, then another. Chaos surrounded him, but he kept moving, dragging wounded comrades, shouting orders, guiding others to safety. He had never been a hero. He had never even been brave. But fear made him sharp. Desperation made him strong. Lyra stood at the center of the chaos, her eyes glowing faintly, her voice carrying calm authority. She did not touch a weapon. She did not strike. Yet every Zytrax soldier that saw her faltered. Their weapons wavered. Their minds seemed to hesitate. She radiated power, silent but absolute and still. It was the humans who fought. Ethan realized something he had never truly understood before. Humans were small, weak, fragile compared to the beings that ruled the stars. But when they stood together, when they fought for loyalty, for love, for one another, they became something more. They became a force that could shake empires. Hours passed. The station was battered. Smoke filled the corridors. Friends he had known for years lay injured, some dead. Yet the human spirit burned brighter than any starship cannon. Finally, the Zytrax began to retreat. Their massive fleet moved back into hyperspace, leaving the battered station behind. They had underestimated the humans. They had dismissed the miners as weak. But here, in the chaos, the humans had proven something undeniable. They did not fight for gold, or glory, or fear. They fought for loyalty, for life. For love, Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted, covered in soot and blood, trembling with relief and sorrow. Lyra knelt beside him, placing her hand on his shoulder. It was a gentle touch, but it carried warmth, pride, and something he could not name. "You stood," she said softly, "even when it was hopeless, even when it could have ended badly. You stood." Ethan shook his head. "We all of us. We didn't want to leave anyone behind. That is why you are human," Lyra replied. Her eyes glimmered with faint light, like stars in the dark void. "Because even in fear, you chose courage. Even in danger, you chose loyalty. That is rare and precious." For the first time, Ethan realized what humans could truly be. Not just weak creatures scraping by in the shadows of the galaxy. Not just miners or workers or small, insignificant lives. They were capable of bravery that could rival empires. Capable of love that could move the stars.